Welcome everyone. My name is Angela Rasso. I'm with the New Mexico Environment Department Climate Change Bureau. I'm excited to talk to you today about the large entity reporting requirement. Before we get started, I want to note for everyone that the slides and recording will be available after the webinar. During this webinar, we are going to take questions and answers at the end. If you have a question, please use the Q&A panel on your dashboard. We will answer questions in the order they are received and attempt to get to everyone's questions today. We expect everyone to be respectful and constructive during this webinar and the question and answer session. Today, we're going to go over the large entity reporting requirement, including a background of why NMED is collecting this information, an overview of the large entity reporting requirement, office hours and resources that are available to you as you work on your report, who needs to report, which vehicles you need to report, and then we'll go over the details of reporting, including the reporting spreadsheet and the types of data you will report on that spreadsheet, and how to submit that data and what records you need to keep after you have completed your required report. In New Mexico, fossil fuel-powered transportation contributes to air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. It is the second largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in New Mexico after the extraction and production of oil and gas. In 2023, after a 4-day joint public hearing and multiple meetings between NMED and interested parties, New Mexico adopted the new motor vehicle emission standards. The new motor vehicle emission standards help ensure that New Mexicans have access to zero-emission vehicles. These rules include a one-time reporting requirement for certain fleet owners and transportation providers. That is the large entity reporting requirement. This is a one-time report that will be due by July 31st, 2025. This applies only to medium and heavy duty vehicles, and you will report using a large entity reporting spreadsheet that's available on our website. When you're working on your report, you will include information about your organization, the facilities that you operate, especially facilities that house medium and heavy duty vehicles, how your fleet operates in New Mexico, and a list of the VINs of vehicles that you operate in New Mexico. We have several opportunities for you to ask questions and get assistance with your report. We're conducting virtual office hours from 9 to 10 a.m. Mountain Time every Tuesday through the reporting deadline of July 31st. In addition, if you would have a specific question you'd like answered, you can reach out to Kayla with the NMED Climate Change Bureau at the phone number on the screen or the email address on the screen, and we are happy to get you answers to any of the questions you have. Here we'll also put in the chat links for where you can go to download the large entity reporting spreadsheet and get more information on our Climate Change Bureau website, and subscribe to our email listserv for announcements. The large entity reporting requirement only applies to entities that operate medium and heavy duty vehicles, which have a gross vehicle weight rating greater than 8,500 pounds. We have a flowchart available for you to determine if you are subject to this requirement. Any entity with U.S. annual gross revenues greater than $50 million in the 2023 or 2024 tax year, who operate both at least one facility and at least one medium and heavy duty vehicle in calendar year 2024 or through April 30th of 2025 is required to report. As is any fleet owner in calendar year 2024 or through April 30th of 2025 that had 50 or more medium and heavy duty vehicles is required to report. Brokers or entities that dispatch vehicles that dispatch 50 or more medium and heavy duty vehicles into New Mexico or through New Mexico and operated a facility in New Mexico in 2024 or through April 30th of 2025 are required to report. And finally, any federal government agency, state government agency, local government agency, or political subdivision of one of those that operates one or more medium or heavy-duty vehicles are required to report. There are a few exclusions from reporting. Schools and school districts that operate K-12 are not required to report. Entities that operate emergency vehicles and military tactical vehicles are not required to report those vehicles. They do still have to report any vehicles that are not emergency vehicles or military tactical vehicles if they are required to report. Entities that do not operate a facility in New Mexico are not included in any of the criteria of entities that are required to report. Of course, any entities that would like to submit that are exempt can submit a voluntary report if they would like. Medium and heavy duty vehicles start at a 3/4 ton pickup, and every vehicle larger than that, including delivery trucks, tow trucks, all the way up to sleeper cab semi-tractors and concrete mixers. This reporting requirement does not apply to lighter duty vehicles like cars and half-ton pickup trucks. This includes yard tractors, whether they are on-road or off-road, but it does not include other off-road vehicles. Vehicles that are domiciled or registered in New Mexico and vehicles that do the majority of their miles in New Mexico must be reported. Reporting. In order to do your report, please download and fill out the NMED Large Entity Reporting Spreadsheet and submit it to us by July 31st, 2025. You can download the spreadsheet from the NMED webpage. If you go to our website, you will see something very similar to this screenshot here, where you can click right here on download the spreadsheet here, and you will download the spreadsheet for you to fill out. In the spreadsheet, you'll find several tabs of information to fill out. The first tab to fill out is your organization information, including contact information for your organization, the primary NAICS number, your organization's annual revenue. If you have broker or motor carrier authority, you will enter that information there, as well as your U.S. Department of Transportation number, your IRP number, and your PRC, NMDOT, or CERT number. You'll also enter high-level information about the number of hired carriers you used for deliveries in New Mexico, if you have a corporate sustainability plan, and if that corporate sustainability plan includes transportation emissions, and vehicles operating in New Mexico with domiciles outside of the state. If you are a broker or a motor carrier, we do not expect you to have all of the same information as operators of vehicles. We do expect you to enter information about the number of subhaulers you contract with in New Mexico to transport goods or other property, the estimated number of vehicles operated by your subhaulers on your behalf, and the estimated number of vehicles operated by your subhaulers that operate under your motor carrier authority in New Mexico. The next tab in the reporting spreadsheet you'll find is information on the facilities you operate in New Mexico. You'll enter for each facility, you'll enter information about the facility name, the facility address, a contact person for the facility, the type of facility, if the facility is leased or owned, if there is any fueling infrastructure on site at the facility, and if you operate semi-tractors out of the facility, if you have trailers on site at that facility. And if so, what types of trailers? The next tab in the reporting spreadsheet will be information about your vehicles. You will group your vehicles together and report separately for each group of vehicles. For each group of vehicles, you will choose a facility that the group of vehicles is based out of. Those choices will auto-populate from the Facility tab. You will select your vehicle group name, which is also the operational category, such as food or beverage distribution. You will select a body type and select the type of fuel that that set of vehicles uses, such as gasoline or diesel. You'll select the weight class, such as 2B, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Then you will also include the number of vehicles of that type at this location. That is your vehicle group category for the analysis. When you are grouping vehicles, you should analyze and report data for vehicles based on the number of similar vehicles with the same body type and same fuel at the same location. For instance, if you had 5 gasoline Class 2B cargo vans in Las Cruces and 16 Class 3 diesel cargo vans in Albuquerque, those would not be part of the same vehicle group because they are based out of different locations and there are different weight classes and they burn different fuel. Here is an example of here is the drop-down menus you will find as you are entering your vehicle categories. You can see that the vehicle group is based on the operational category. The body type is inclusive of many different body types. If you do not have one of these body types, you can select Other and specify what the body type is in the comments. If you have one of the fuels not listed here, please also specify that in the comments. Once you have entered your vehicle groups, you will answer questions about how each group of vehicles operates. You will enter both daily mileage and annual mileage as requested. When answering mileage data, do not include backup vehicles or vehicles that did not operate during the analysis period. When you're answering daily mileage questions, apply the 9 out of 10 rule. For example, if a vehicle operates less than 100 miles per day 7 out of 10 working days and less than 150 miles on the remaining 3 out of 10 working days, the best response for this vehicle is that it typically operates less than 150 average miles per day, as 3 out of 10 days it operates more than 100 miles. Thus, 9 out of 10 days operate more than 100 miles. Or it does not operate less than 100 miles 9 out of 10 days. For brokers, we don't expect you to be able to answer these questions. You will only answer about the amount of miles that are driven under contract with you. You will also answer additional questions about the operations of each vehicle group. These questions should be answered by selecting the nearest 10% for each vehicle group. For example, if 6 out of 10 vehicles in the vehicle group have a predictable use pattern, you would select 60% in this field for the applicable vehicle group. For the question, do most vehicles in this group stay within 50 miles of their facility on a typical day? You will answer yes, it does. Most vehicles do stay within 50 miles, or no, most vehicles in this group do not stay within 50 miles. This question should be answered on whether a majority of vehicles in this group operate within a 50-mile radius of the home base at least 9 out of 10 days. You will also answer what is the highest approximate percentage of the vehicle group that was dispatched at the same time over the last 3 years on behalf of local, state, or federal government to support an emergency operation such as repairing or preventing damage to road, buildings, terrain, and infrastructure as a result of an earthquake, flood, storm, fire, terrorism, or other infrequent acts of nature. You should provide this response to the nearest 10% for each vehicle group. I do want to note that this question applies to emergency situations that are due to acts of nature. For instance, if it was routine road maintenance, you would not include those vehicles in this group. We also want to know how long after purchase or lease does your organization typically keep vehicles in this group? Please respond in number format as the number of years that your group or your organization keeps vehicles in each group. For each vehicle group, identify whether your entity is the fleet owner operator for this group of vehicles or if they are dispatched under your brokerage authority. Please select owner if you are an owner or operator, or broker. If you are neither an owner or a broker, please explain in the comments how your organization controls the vehicles. You also need to identify the start and end date of the analysis period. This is the period which you've answered the previous questions for. This can be any period that is convenient for you and your data, as long as the start date of the period is on or after January 1st of 2024 and the end date is before May 1st of 2025. You could align your analysis period with a quarter, a month, or a year, and it could be a calendar year or a fiscal year. If you are a non-asset owning broker, you should use an office location within the state of New Mexico as a facility, unless you have operational control over a local truck yard. You should report vehicle information from your dispatch or contract records, and only contract-specific mileage is required. Dispatch records may include load mileage, via waypoints, weight from load info, and vehicle details where available. We don't expect brokers to know the answer to every question for all of these vehicles, but you should make your best effort at answering the questions based on your contracts and the information you do know about the vehicles. Finally, we are asking all entities to report a list of VINs for the vehicles they are basing their report on. The purpose of this is so that we can double check that we are not getting any duplicate reports for vehicles. If you do not have any of your vehicle VINs, for instance, if you are a broker and you do not have that information in your contracts, you can support without a VIN. However, we do expect others, non-broker entities, to be reporting VINs for the vehicles they are reporting. If your report includes trade secret or confidential information, please be sure to note that in the comment section of the large entity reporting spreadsheet so that we can protect any information you submit from applicable laws, including the Information and Public Records Act. And please be specific the nature of the data that you are claiming to be a trade secret or confidential information. Once you have entered your information into the large entity reporting spreadsheet, you will email it to us at cleancarsnm@enb.nm.gov. We will review it for completeness and email you when we have received it. We may ask you to provide additional information about your report to verify completeness. This is a requirement in the administrative code that responsible officials submitting a report under this requirement shall maintain all records of information used to complete the report for 5 years following the report. This includes the spreadsheet that you have submitted itself, as well as any information you use to answer questions up on the spreadsheet. Records might include mileage records, mileage logs, maintenance logs, vehicle logs, odometer readings. It might also include dispatch records, contracts, or other records with information about dispatched vehicles. It may also include vehicle registration information and other contracts for hauling. NMED may request clarification of the reported data as we work on the data analysis associated with this collection. Again, we're going to be having office hours every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. through the end of the reporting period on July 31st of this year. You can also contact us by calling or emailing Kayla. She'll get back to you promptly with an answer to your question or with a question about your question, possibly. You can download the spreadsheet from our website and find more information about the large entity reporting requirement on our website. If you'd like to receive information about the large entity reporting requirement, you can subscribe to our topic on the Climate Change Bureau listserv by going to our Gov Delivery link. And you can read the regulation about the large entity reporting requirement at 20.2.91.120 NMAC. All right, thank you. And I'm going to invite Kayla to come up and ask any questions that have been put in the chat. If you have questions, please use the question tab to submit them, and we will get to your answers.
Okay, so the first question I will be asking that somebody has submitted is, why are we required to report this information when we already report to DOT and FMCSA? What information is required to be reported? What will reporting accomplish?
Right. So we are asking for slightly different information than what's reported to different agencies. The intent of this is for NMED and state government, potentially others as a whole, to be examining areas of transportation in New Mexico to see what potential exists for decarbonization of transportation.
Okay, and I will be asking this question as well, which honestly is very similar. Most companies have similar reporting to NMDOT and the FMSCA. Why are we needing to report this to another agency? So we just covered this one. Do the different agencies not communicate with one another is part of that question though.
So we communicate regularly with other agencies, but we are asking slightly different questions in an effort to examine the potential for decarbonization, especially in the medium and heavy duty space.
So a lot of questions were submitted as well, and hopefully this webinar was able to answer these questions for you. And then we're just going to go over some very common questions that we've received in the past.
I think you meant to say a lot of questions about the applicability of the requirement.
Yes. A lot of questions about the applicability.
If you have not had your question about the applicability of the requirement to your organization, please let us know in the Q&A field, or go ahead and come to our office hour tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mountain Time.
Regarding what is the start date of this analysis period, what will that entail for people?
So people can choose the analysis period that works best for the data they have available to them. As long as your analysis period starts on or after January 1st of 2024 and ends on or before April 30th of 2025, you can decide what analysis period makes sense with your information.
Okay. For miles Is that only in New Mexico, or is that the total mileage for the vehicle in all states annually?
Mileage should be for the vehicle, whether or not they are driven in or out of New Mexico during the period, as long as the vehicle is subject.
Okay. We have a few new questions. Can you state the definition of a broker for this program?
The definition of a broker. If you give me 1 second, I can get that. Typically, brokers are people who dispatch vehicles, or they're in between entities that contract delivery of items. But let me get the exact definition here. And this is incorporated into New Mexico Administrative Code by reference. A broker is an entity or person who has broker authority from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and, for compensation, arranges or offers to arrange the transportation of property by an authorized motor carrier. A motor carrier or person who is an employee of a bona fide agent of a carrier is not a broker when it arranges or offers to arrange the transportation of shipments, which it is authorized to transport and which it has accepted and legally bound itself to transport. And we're happy, for the person who asked that question, we're happy to also email you that definition.
Okay, I'm going to ask the next question. Is this going to lead to a mileage tax or a carbon tax?
That is not our intent. Our intent is design of programs, hopefully primarily incentives, for decarbonization of the medium and heavy duty vehicle or transportation industry in New Mexico. Part of this is that we don't feel, even with the data that is reported to other agencies, that we have a firm grasp on how medium and heavy duty vehicles are really used in New Mexico. And it can be a difficult area to transition to, for instance, electric vehicles. So we need a firmer understanding of how and where there are opportunities for other types of fuels or lower carbon fuels, lower carbon drivetrains in New Mexico. Another purpose of this data, is that we feel like we need a better understanding of, specifically for medium and heavy duty vehicles, of what infrastructure needs there are for decarbonization.
Is this a new agency?
This is not a new agency. We are part of the New Mexico Environment Department. New Mexico Environment Department has been an agency in New Mexico since it split from Department of Health, I believe, in the 90s. The Climate Change Bureau is a part of the New Mexico Environment Department. We are a relatively new bureau within NMED.
Okay. Next question. If there are two entities owned by the same person that own a total of more than 50 vehicles combined, do we file one report?
Yes, you can file one report.
Can you clarify which tractors need to be reported? The comment I heard was to report them if they drive a majority of their miles in New Mexico. If a truck drives 51% of their miles in other states, we should not report them, correct?
You're not required to report vehicles that are not registered or domiciled in New Mexico and drive less than a majority of their miles in New Mexico. So if it is registered and domiciled in another state, for instance, Arizona, and does sometimes do deliveries in New Mexico, but less than 50% of its miles are done in New Mexico, it is not required to be reported.
Okay, I think I'm going to go to the question that is common. We only keep monthly mileage logs. How should I report daily logs?
If you only keep monthly information about mileage, but you know typical use patterns, you can estimate your daily mileage based on the typical use. Another way to go about this is, for instance, if you know the number of days a vehicle was used in the month that you have a mileage log for, you can divide the monthly mileage for an average daily mileage.
Okay. Next question. Can you clarify what a facility is? They interpret this to be a warehouse.
Yes, a warehouse would be a facility. A facility under this regulation is a very broad term. I believe it's a location with a unique address. So many things could be a facility. An office could be a facility. A warehouse could be a facility. A location where you park vehicles could be a facility under this regulation.
Okay. Here's another question. Pickups are not part of the reporting criteria, correct?
Half-ton pickups are typically smaller than the threshold for reporting under this requirement. 3/4 ton pickups are typically greater than 8,500 pounds and thus are part of this reporting requirement. So that, just to clarify a little more, an F-150 is too small, an F-250 is part of the requirements. Not to pick on Ford.
Okay, that's all the questions I have so far.
Okay, great. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. We will hang around for a few more minutes to answer questions anyone has. Otherwise, you're welcome to come to our office hours or reach out to Kayla. I'll put contact information back on the screen for you. With any questions you have.
Here
Kayla,
comes
let
another
me
one.
know. Oh, we have another one. Great.
Any vehicles with New Mexico plates have to report? Sorry, let me say that again. Any vehicles with New Mexico plates have to report?
If it is a medium or heavy duty vehicle, again, over that 8,500 gross vehicle weight rating threshold, so typically a 3/4 ton pickup and up, it is registered in New Mexico and your entity is required to report. You should include it in your report. Was that too long? Should I try again?
No. We did have one scenario where there was a gentleman that had a vehicle that was owned and registered in the state of Wyoming, but was down here doing work. But he had to report, correct?
Yes. So any vehicles that are doing more than half of their mileage in New Mexico, regardless of where they are registered, have to report. So if it's registered in New Mexico, it's domiciled in New Mexico, which means it's typically its home base is in New Mexico, whether or not it's registered here, or if it's doing more than half of its mileage in New Mexico.
Why can this agency not pull this information from the MVD?
So MVD doesn't have the answers to most of these questions. For instance, if we talk about the question, let's see if I can find it, a question about vehicles in the group staying within 50 miles of a facility within a typical day, that is not information that MVD has. We can work with MVD to get registration information for medium and heavy duty vehicles, but that's about all we get from them.
Will this webinar be available in a recording with the slides?
Yes, the recording and the slides will be available following the webinar. They'll both be emailed to participants as well as available on our NMED website.
Okay, those are all the questions I have currently, so we can just wait a little bit while longer to see if anyone else wants to answer a question. Oh, here we go. I have another one for you, Angela. If the information is for infrastructure research, why are the public driver not included in the reporting?
So the infrastructure I'm talking about with the infrastructure research is typically fueling needs for medium and heavy duty vehicles. So that a lot of that, and medium and heavy duty vehicles typically are owned by organizations, not by individuals. And I understand here in New Mexico, we love our pickup trucks, including 3/4 ton pickup trucks. Typically, medium and heavy duty vehicles are owned by a company or a government or another organization. So we're collecting this information to really try to design fueling needs around decarbonization. And I guess to expand on that a little bit more as I think about it, medium and heavy duty vehicles have some unique needs, and fleets have unique needs around fueling. It's not always the same as just fueling up a light duty vehicle.
I'll ask a common question that people have been asking continuously. What classifies as a tractor that needs to be reported? Is it a large tractor or a tractor that you can buy at a Lowe's or Home Depot facility?
So tractors. So when I'm talking about tractors, I'm typically talking about what many of us call semis, right? So all semis need to be reported. When we're talking about yard tractors, that is a little bit different than something you would buy. Do Lowe's and Home Depot sell tractors? I've never bought a tractor before, I guess. So they're not the same vehicles as what you would buy. Typically, you would buy these types of vehicles from a dealership that specializes in medium and heavy duty vehicles.
I have 2 more questions for you. Are you going to start issuing carbon credits?
That is a complicated question. So we are not issuing any type of carbon credits per se. The closest we are coming to that is, and we just announced our petition for rules on this on Friday, I believe, is our Clean Transportation Fuel Program, which is really about only about fuel producers. It shouldn't affect fleets unless they are also importing their own fuel or producing their own fuel.
Okay. This is the next question. Our fleets consist of leased MHDV. Am I subject to report, or will the leasing company be responsible for this report?
If you're leasing your vehicles, you would be the operator of the vehicles and you should report. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the question tab and submit them so we can answer them for you.
I got one here. Are the reporting periods predetermined? Can I report a 3-month period?
Yes, you can. As long as that 3-month period starts on or after January 1st of 2024 and ends on or before April 30th of 2025, you can absolutely use a 3-month period if that's what you have accessible data for. We're going to go ahead and end the webinar. Again, if you have come up with any questions after this, please feel free to reach out to us. You can call Kayla at the number on the screen or email us at cleancarsnm@env.nm.gov or come to our this is the webinar. Come to our virtual office hours, which are every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Thank you all for coming.